And once again, we are live on the Get Foxy show with Ms. Sarah Williams. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time. You are clear across the pond in Australia, so thank you for getting up so early in the morning this morning to be able to chat with me.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. It is a bit of a shock to the system. I don't normally set alarms, but I have set one for you to make sure that I was on time for our phone call.
Well, thank you so much. So right off the bat, what is a tough girl, according to Sarah Williams, and what is a tough girl challenge?
To give it some context, my company is called Tough Girl Challenges, which is all about motivating and inspiring women and girls. For me, being a tough girl is just about stepping outside your comfort zone. It's about growing, it's about learning, it's about developing, it's about travel, it's about adventure, it's about living your own life on your terms, whatever that may be. Now for me, being tough, I love travel, I love adventure, I love pushing myself physically and mentally. So I go out and do sort of what some would say are ridiculous challenges. So I've run 6 marathons in 6 days across the Sahara Desert. I've thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail, 2,200 miles in 100 days. Most recently, I've cycled from Vancouver in Canada all the way down to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. So I think everybody's got their own version of tough, and everybody challenges themselves in different ways. So it's just finding out what challenges inspire you, what you're interested in, and then going after them. Because I think what I found is so many women have these great ideas and these wonderful dreams of things that they'd like to do or should do, but they never actually get around to doing it. And either they stop themselves, or other people's fears stop them, or society stops them, or they think, I can't do that, I'm not tough enough to do that, or I could never do that, or I'm not brave enough, strong enough, fit enough. And they just sort of put so many barriers in the way of getting out there and achieving their dreams. So for me, it's about encouraging other women to say, hey, look, you can do this. You've just got to decide what it is that you want to do, and then show them the different ways of doing it. So for some of the challenges that I've done, so I haven't been on a bike for about 13 years. And I talk to people about, look, how do you plan a big, massive adventure of cycling over 4,000 kilometers, and actually share the process and the journey with them? How do I pay for it? How do I train for it? How do I physically get fit for it? Mentally, how do I prepare? How do I get over those worries? What if I do break down? What if I burst the tire? What if I'm lonely? What if my bike gets stolen? Where do I camp at night? What food am I going to eat? And actually, if I can show them this, then hopefully they can watch it and think, oh, okay, well, Sarah can do this. So, okay, maybe I can give it a go. And equally, another aspect of Tough Girl Challenges is I have a podcast called the Tough Girl Podcast. And I interview other women and actually help to share and promote their stories. So it's all women, different ages, different backgrounds, who've got a whole variety of different challenges. For me, it's the physical side of challenges. It's how they do it, it's the why they do it, and how they overcame those fears and those barriers. And that's what I share, so that other women can see other women doing it. So that they can see it, they can actually go out and do it. So I suppose that's really sort of Tough Girl and Tough Girl Challenges. It's about motivation and inspiration. It's about promoting female role models. It's about this inspiration and motivation, but also combined with very practical tips as well.
Thank you for bringing up the Tough Girl podcast, because that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this show. Not just because I promote my own podcast, but I like pointing my folks to other good folks out there. And I did have an opportunity to take a listen to your podcast, and it is very inspirational. The women that you have on your podcast, I mean, these are some pretty amazing women, or maybe they're normal women who have just done amazing things. I guess it kind of depends on your perspective. But yes, very inspirational, and I think it's a good way for women to start kind of battling this mean girl in their heads. A lot of my patients, I'm an acupuncturist, And I see a lot of women in my clinic who end up telling me about this self-criticism that they often have. And like you said, these barriers in their mind to themselves, oh, I'm not tough enough. Oh, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I'm not this. Oh, I'm not that. So I say, well, there's this, that's a little mean girl in the back of your head that's telling you that. And how do we get that little mean girl to just be quiet for a while?
Mm. See, well, I think there's interesting things, because I think some people think that, if you just sort of stand in front of a mirror and sort of say, be quiet, or stop it, that's going to quieten down the voice. For me, I believe that actions sort of speak louder than words, and actually you've got to get out there and change. You've got to change it from inside. So it is actually about building that self-confidence up and doing something that you didn't think you could do. I mean, I always start with, say, like a 5K running race, because people forget how difficult it is to run a mile, to run 3 miles. But actually, if you set yourself a goal of saying, you know what, I'm going to run 5K, and then you train for it, you walk, you run, you jog, you go join a running group, you join your local park run, and then you suddenly you achieve that goal. Your inner critic, your inner mean girl, your that little person inside who starts to doubt you, is suddenly you're giving them evidence and saying, look, you just achieved that. And they've got less to argue with. And it can start off small, but actually over time, that's how you build up your own internal self-confidence. And that's how you shut down the critic. That's how you shut down the inner mean girl, by actually getting out there and doing and showing and proving to you, basically, look, I can do this. I can set these goals and I can get out there and achieve. And I think that's incredibly powerful when you can give evidence and you can show your inner critic or inner mean girl, look, I can do this. I have done this, because they can see you doing it. And then over time, it just builds and builds and builds. And for me, I think that is the best way to help overcome that inner mean girl. I interviewed a great adventurer called Anna McNuff, and she recently, about 2 years ago, actually ran the full length of New Zealand. And she talks about her inner cheerleader or the doubters. And she's running like 20 odd miles every single day, doing this phenomenal job. And she just climbed up this massive mountain. And that inner voice was saying, oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you didn't run the whole way, and you stopped and you walked for a little bit. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. And actually, she ended up saying, or having this moment where she realized, hold on, she's got another 6 months of running the length of New Zealand. And actually, if doing this isn't good enough, it's never going to be good enough. And actually, she decided to stamp it out, basically, and start to become her own cheerleader, to be her own cheer squad, and just to have that gratitude and to have that positive attitude, and just to focus on everything that she was doing right. So instead of focusing on everything she was doing wrong or wasn't quite perfect, she was saying, hey, do you know what, I still did this, I did amazing, I've run 19 miles a day, I've camped here, I've done this, I've done X, Y, and Z. And gradually, slowly but surely, it started to change her mental mindset about what she was doing. And I think that can be incredibly powerful. I mean, for me, myself, when I was doing Marathon des Sables, so I was running across the Sahara Desert, so 6 marathons in 6 days, in some very dark moments, you'd have these aspects where you'd be thinking, do you know what, I'm in pain, my feet hurt, it's too hot, I'm never going to be able to do this, and why did I even think this? And it's a very slippery slope once you start having those negative thoughts and you start being mean to yourself. And actually, I knew that I needed to switch out of it. So for me, it was thinking, hold on, you paid a lot of money to be out here. What are you grateful for? Look around you. What can you be grateful for at this time, in that moment? And for me, it was like, well, actually, do you know what? You love the sunshine. You love the heat. This is incredible. Actually, we're in the desert. Hold on. We are following our dreams. This has been a dream. This has been something you've worked for 18 months. And it's like, do you know what? Also, I'm fit enough. I'm strong enough. I'm healthy enough to be out here. And that can be incredibly powerful. Equally on the Appalachian Trail, if I was going through those dark moments, I would force myself to think of what I'm grateful for. So every time I passed a tree, and on the Appalachian Trail there's lots of trees, you'd be saying, actually, you know what, I'm grateful for whatever, the smallest things. It doesn't even really matter what it is, as long as it is, as you're grateful for it. the weather. Oh, it's raining. Well, do you know what? At least it's not snowing. Oh, at least it's not windy. At least it's not thunderstorm. You know, eating food on the trail and you've only got like a protein bar. Do you know what? At least I've got a protein bar left. At least I've got water. And I think you can train yourself to think in a certain way, and you can, and that can be incredibly powerful to help you get through those dark moments, and also to get you on side with you, and for you to believe on it, to you internal you to believe in what you are doing.
Yes, mindset is so huge. As a Chinese medicine practitioner, I tell this to my patients quite often. Where the mind goes, the qi flows, the qi being the body's energy. And we can also say energy follows intention. And so where you intend your thoughts, where your thoughts go, has an effect on your mental capacity, your physical capacity, your energetic capacity. So that's big stuff when you can go through a trial like that, and instead of focusing on, oh man, how much does this suck, but instead, what are you grateful for, and having that reframing. Oh my gosh, that's powerful stuff, Sarah.
Mm. Actually, and reframing as well. I mean, I got a great tip from somebody, because when I was training for the Marathon des Sables, some of my bigger distances would be like 25 miles, 30 odd miles, so like 80 odd kilometers. Wait a minute, is that right? 40, yeah, about 80 odd kilometers in training, maybe a little bit more. And I always thought that like my long runs were 15 miles, and I had to change that. So actually, my short runs became 10, 12, 15 miles. And then my long runs became the 20, 25, 30. And so that was a massive reframing, especially when you're starting out and only doing like a couple of miles. And reframe is very, very powerful stuff. The mind is incredibly powerful. And actually, we talk about that a lot on the podcast about, the mental side of things, mental health, as well as that gratitude and the visualization. It's all so, so powerful. And I'm a massive believer as well. What you focus on is what you achieve, and where your energy goes, and movement creates, motion creates emotion. And it's all interlinked. So really, really powerful.
What motivates you to put this podcast together?
So initially, I actually had a very normal job, very normal career. I spent 8 years working in the city in London, and I got to 32 and just thought, this cannot be my life. I was miserable. I was tired. I was grey. And I thought something has got to change. And so I ended up leaving my job, and I had about 18 months where I basically went traveling. I had another gap year, and I did various things. I went and climbed Kilimanjaro, but I also spent about 4 months backpacking in South America. And finally, I got some time to really think about my life, what I wanted to do, because previously I'd spend more time planning my holidays than actually planning what I did for a living, or what my life was going to turn out like. And while I was in South America, you travel on these buses, and so you're traveling for 24 hours, sat on these buses. And I got that thinking time. I was away from family, friends, my normal society, normal expectations. I got the opportunity to journal, to write things down, and to dream, and to really think about what it was I wanted. And for me, it gave me a lot of clarity about, hold on, what do I like doing? Not because I like it because other people think I should like it, but I actually like doing it. And for me, it was that travel adventure. It was that physical challenge. But also the other side of the coin was that motivating, inspiring women and girls was something that was very passionate for me. So in London, I used to work on the London Committee for UN Women. I was involved in Women for Women International, and I used to get a lot of joy and self-fulfillment from that. And I thought, how can I combine it all together? And I wanted something that was tough, but also feminine, and also to show girls and women, look, you can do these things which previously society has told you that you can't do, or isn't normal, or you're very brave for doing. And that's how Tough Girl Challenges was formed. And initially it was going to be a blog, and I was going to write about my life and my adventures and my travels, and it was going to be read by millions, and it was going to inspire so many people. Nobody read my blog. Put out loads of content. No one was reading it, and it just wasn't having the traction that I was wanting. And I started to go into local girls' schools to give talks about some of the different challenges that I've done, to hopefully motivate and inspire them. And I kept hearing about the these goals that young girls wanted to have. And in the UK, we have something called a WAG, which is where you grow up to be the wife and girlfriend of somebody. So I, like a footballer. And for me, it was just, no, you've got so much more value from you than just in terms of who you're going to marry or who your partner is. It's actually you. What can you do? What can you achieve? And I remember coming home feeling really despondent, actually, after a couple of these conversations that I'd had. And I was flipping through the newspapers. And it must have just been one of those days where there was just no women at all. There's no photos of women, no headlines about women. There was nothing in the sports section. And I was thinking to myself, if I'm an educated woman in my 30s and I'm struggling to find female role models, or I can't see them in the papers and you don't get to see them on the sports channels, how do young women growing up, they just don't stand a chance? And at that time, I was in a mastermind group and a friend said, Sarah, you start a podcast. It's an incredibly powerful way to share these other stories and voices. And my first response was, I can't do that. Like, I am not technical. I don't know how to use a microphone and record and edit and, upload it. Like, where do you even start? And to be honest, I started on the 4th of August in 2015 with 4 women. And it's just grown and grown and grown. It's been massive learning curves. I mean, when I first started, I didn't even introduce myself because I thought, well, everybody who's going to be listening to me, it's going to be my friends and family. So they'll obviously just know who I am. And it's grown. So now I've done over 180 interviews, as I've said, women of all ages, all backgrounds, different stories. And it's from grandmothers, from Olympians, from everyday women. I've spoken to a woman who's going through a divorce called Ann Daniels, and she was pregnant with triplets and how she trained to go out for the Arctic. I've spoken, with single mums, how women get back into health and fitness after they've had a baby. I've spoken with young women in their 20s who want to make adventure part of their lifestyle. I've spoken with women who've just gone off and decided to do a big challenge. And there's a lot of variety in there. And I think it's just an incredibly powerful medium for people to be able to share their own story in their own words. And when you hear the passion in their voice, and it's incredibly powerful when you're in somebody's head and all you're doing is, sharing their story. And so, that's what I've been doing.
That is fantastic work, Sarah. I'm going to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is your definition of Foxy? What does Foxy and being Foxy mean to Sarah Williams?
I've been thinking about this for a while, and because I knew it's sort of like one of your standard questions, and I have to say, I think what Foxy? Okay, Foxy for me, it's self-confidence, it's self-belief, it's knowing yourself, it's loving yourself, it's liking yourself, and it's being really comfortable in your own skin, as well as being comfortable being alone and just being like, do you know what? I know that not everybody is going to like what I do or how I am. Not everybody likes, what I do or how I put my content out. And, for example, I've shared YouTube videos and, I've had some really negative stuff coming in the comments, but you've got to get to that stage where you're like, you know what? I'm really happy with me. And I think that is what makes you Foxy, is having that internal self-confidence and self-love for yourself, and just knowing, do you know what, I'm Foxy. And I think that's where the power comes from. And it's being able to ignore the critics, or even to be able to show empathy for people who don't like what you do, because I think that always tells you more about them than it does for you. So I have a lot of people who try and, sort of almost, they push their fears onto me that, oh, but aren't you scared, and you're so brave, and what about doing this by yourself, and so on and so forth. Whereas actually, I think when you're truly Foxy and truly comfortable in your own skin, you know that actually what they're talking about is coming from their place of fear. And actually many times, whether they like you or don't like you, it's actually got nothing to do with you at all. And as long as you like yourself, because that's who you spend all of your time with, that's the most powerful thing, and that's the most Foxy thing. So that's what I say is my answer for being Foxy.
And who embodies Foxy in your world right now?
So I'm actually just living with. So in Australia, I'm living with my brother and his wife and their two children, and I have to say it is. I don't have children myself, and I've spoken with other mums who've been out there and they've done these big incredible challenges, and I have to say it is women with children, whether they've got partners, whether they are single, because it is hard. I mean, I'm babysitting my niece and my nephew, and I'm exhausted, and I'm just thinking, I just don't know how. Honestly, I literally, hand on heart, it is the most. It's you're sleep deprived, which is like a form of torture. And then when I hear about these women who are studying for their PhDs, they're training for big physical challenges, they're working full-time jobs. I'm honestly blown away by that, because I have it's brutal, and it's so hard, and that gets my utmost respect and admiration. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's opened a whole new world has been opened up to me. Seeing it firsthand and seeing how difficult and how hard it is.
It blows my mind how some women that I've met over the years have been able to handle so many roles of mother to multiple children, wife or lover to their partner, and excuse me, and also run their own business, be an entrepreneur. And having to do all three of these roles all together, I mean, what a challenge. I mean, it's big stuff, hard work. And as far as, running a business or doing some kind of challenge where you're motivating yourself to run a 5K, I mean, I've met several women who've done that as well. That, good grief. I mean, there is so much weight on your shoulders that you have to heft. It's amazing to me how many women can handle this and make it look so damn easy.
100%. I was going to say, some people call me like an endurance athlete, and I'll say this is the biggest endurance challenge that I've done, and I'm not really even doing it. I'm sort of semi-participating, but absolutely agreeing. It's one of the reasons I try and get women who do have children to talk about the different aspects or getting back into health and fitness after they've had a child. And actually, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of asking this question, but how do they get balance in their life? How do they get harmony? How do they do it? And it's not about necessarily doing it all, and that's whether you've got a partner or you don't have a partner, that's absolutely fine. But it's actually like, how do they manage it? What are the practical tips and tricks that they can pass on for other women out there, which can help them to think, okay, maybe I can give this a go, and maybe I can make this work. But yet, exactly, like running your own business. I mean, it's quite interesting, because I think for a while people saw what I was putting out on Instagram stories and thought, oh, Sarah's got this wonderful life, and she's off to the gym and she's training for these big challenges, and she's off in America, and she's cycling 4,000 kilometers, or she's out in the woods for 3 months and all this sort of stuff. But actually what I've become more and more aware of is that I actually need to share the other side of the coin as well, and say, look, normally I can spend up to 15 hours a day on my computer editing. I am a one-woman show. I do the podcast, I do the vlogs, I do these big challenges, I train for it. And actually, how do I make that work? And I have to say to people, look, when I'm back in the UK, I do live with my parents, and mum does my cooking and my laundry. Like, dad gives me a car to drive. I'm incredibly fortunate, and that's how I can manage to build my business, which I've built from scratch. And actually, it's a huge amount of hard work, and people don't really necessarily realize, even with podcasting and editing podcasts and putting them together, the amount of work and the hours that you put in to producing this content and this product is absolutely mind-boggling. And it's good to be able to show the other side of the coin. And that's one thing that I try and do with all of my adventures, and when I share my life, to say, look, I share the good, the bad, the ugly, the realistic side of what it is like. It's not about putting out this perfect image.
That is huge right there. Authenticity. and being able to put out the good, bad, and the ugly, because we see so many images and messages on social media that just kind of display the best side of things. And it gives this impression that, we're almost superhuman. And so it really is good to be able to say, well, yeah, I have done this, but boy, here's where I struggle, and here's where my challenges are, because then it makes you more human. It makes you more relatable. People can say, oh my gosh, well, yeah, okay, yeah, I have those challenges too. Holy cow. But yet here Sarah's doing that, and she's got the same challenges I do. Well, maybe I can do something like that too. So that's big stuff, Sarah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, where can people find your podcast? If people want to know more about Sarah Williams and Tough Girl Challenges, where can they get more information?
I would send everybody to the website, toughgirlchallenges.com. That's where there are links to more information about me, the different challenges, the podcast, the blog, the books that I've written, and also all of my links to social media. I'm loving Instagram stories at the moment, so I do share a lot via that medium. But yeah, toughgirlchallenges.com with all of the links, and everything that you could possibly want to see, watch, or hear.
Fantastic. I will have to check you out on Instagram. I haven't done that yet, but I will be doing that very soon.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, we are running up against time here, Sarah. So thank you so much for taking the time, getting up so early in the morning to chat with
it's not a problem.
the Foxy Show.
I was going to say, can we take a quick photo for my Instagram, and then I can tag you in it?
You bet.
Okay. Are we still recording?